Hello, and welcome back to Legend of the GLORIO Heroes, episode 26. We're here and we're ready to talk about the legendary 1988 science fiction OVA. Frankly, there's a lot of shit to get into with these trio of episodes, so we should probably just, get the ball rolling. As always, I'm your host, G, and as always with me, my reliable co-host, Iro.
It's me. Yep, I'm still here despite many setbacks over the past week or so of trying to get this recorded.
Yes, well, that is why we do these podcasts bi-weekly, as much as I would love to record one of these every week.
Maybe if one of us were the magician Yang, we'd be able to come up with a tactical stratagem to record every week.
I was going to more comment on if we were getting paid to do this.
Oh, no, yeah, sure.
That would be, the point is we have lives.
For collecting our pension from the FPA.
Yes, but alas, the FPA no longer exists, so, no pension to collect from there.
Whoa, spoilers.
But, let's, yes, my apologies, just commenting on the events of these interesting trio of episodes. So we're just going to roll right into it because, frankly, this trio of episodes maybe not as action-packed as last week's, but in many ways just as impactful, just as important. So
indeed. So episode 73, The Edict of the Winter Rose Garden.
Yes, we kick off with... we find that the remnants of the FPA, kind of with the defeat and tragic death of Bucock, have begun to kind of beat feet to Yang's base. Everybody's basically, coalescing.
Heading to Iserlohn.
Yes. All roads of democracy lead to Yang Wenli. So that's where everybody is going. The kind of the last hope of a liberal, democratic republic.
Indeed, and we get plenty of FPA dudes sniping at each other as they're wont to do.
Yes.
Good old...
We find
each other shit.
Yes, especially giving shit is Poplan here, who is saying that the bells toll because the no fun trio of Mirai. What was it? What was it? Mirai,
Fisher, and Patrushev.
Patrushev, there we go. Patrushev and Fisher are arriving from Heinesen, which leads us to this great tangent that, again, is only the kind of thing that this show could get away with. That's like, meanwhile, these three embarked on a ridiculous journey as they put down a mutiny that broke out on their ship, and it's like... But that's a story for another time.
We just get this montage of Fisher got sick from overwork and had to be hospitalized, and because of that, mutineers started rising up. Patrushev and Mr. Sewell, whatever, barely solved the crisis, and then several other things happened. But then they made it.
Yes, but it's just
I want to see that.
Yeah, but it says something about the context, the focus of this show. That's yeah, we don't have time to get into that. So.
I do love how Poplan, when Poplan shows up to talk about this, he's fucking whistling funeral dirges.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, that's what I mean. That the no fun squad is on their way.
Yeah.
Because once these guys get here, they're going to crack down on these hooligans.
Yep. And with them also arrives the news that Admiral Bucock has died in battle.
Yes, we have Frederica delivering the news to Yang, and
doesn't take it super well.
Yang doesn't take it well. We see a brief glimpse of angry Yang, crushing the cup of hot tea.
Yep, burning himself.
Yes, just in a very Yang-like manner, Yang proceeds to blame himself about all the things he clearly could have done better to save.
I'm a fool.
Bucock.
All these people call me smart, but I'm just a fool.
Right, like just Yang and his...
I should have just abducted Bucock and brought him with me.
Yes, just, again, it's a very, we've spent so much time with this character. We understand its core, of course Yang would do this. Of course Yang would beat himself up about this idea of, I didn't do good enough. I didn't save enough people. It's always never enough for him. Like,
Yeah.
in many ways, that trait is perhaps like the thing that makes him most similar to Reinhard. Like, these are both individuals who hold themselves to like
Impossible
ludicrously
standards.
high standards. The only difference is that like Reinhardt is willing to willing to bend his morality to like to see the world witness his extremely high standards, whereas like Yang kind of purposely imposes like restrictions on himself.
Yeah.
Like, but it's just it's a hard moment to watch. We just
Mm-hmm.
it's
Frederick has to tell him that, considering the kind of man Bucock was, he never would have abandoned Heinesen.
Yes. I mean, of course, Frederica here with the rational save of like even if you ask Bucock to come with you, he never would have left. Like, that was a man who was committed and ready to die in the name of democracy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep. And so, Yang orders the Yang fleet, the Alpha Seal Revolutionary Force or whatever, to
whatever they're called,
to mourning for 3 days.
Yes.
And we'll get some shots of everybody drinking their Alpha Seal whiskey.
Yes, kind of just breaking out the drinks.
And Kazelnu sits in his little Iserlohn apartment.
Yes,
talks about how we're supposed to be a happy bunch, and being sad doesn't suit us.
Yes, he's complaining that even like the goofballs like Attenborough and Poplan, who are supposed to keep everybody's spirits up, are not taking Bucock's death well, and that it's just hampering morale as a whole. And we get a great back and forth with Kazelnu and his wife.
I'm glad.
Highly underrated relationship these two have.
It's true.
They don't get enough screen time. I mean, the tragedy is I address her as Kazelnu's wife because I don't even remember her name.
Was Phyllis his child or his wife?
I could not
One of
tell
them
you,
is Phyllis.
Guy. But
I think that's the child.
All right. Well, point is, they have a great relationship, kind of just needling each other. Like
man, I could have been the wife of the chief of rear headquarters. Whose fault is that?
Yes,
you just had to go leave.
Yes, like basically being like, yeah, you can complain as much as you want that like these goofballs are not like being the goofballs you want to be, but don't act like you are not like, don't act like you also did not like just like on a whim like decide to follow Yang to the ends of the earth. So
yeah,
like don't act like you're that much better than them. But,
and go invite Mr. and Mrs. Yang over to eat this pie.
Yes. But
and we get a scene the rare duo of Poplan and Schneider.
Yeah, this is an interesting duo. Like a part of me almost hoped this would be the new Poplan and Konev. They are like kind of just drinking tea and just talking shop.
I do like how like this whole scene, Schneider is drinking coffee out of a pot, and Poplan's drinking his whiskey.
Yes.
Until the end, where Poplan pours whiskey to Schneider's coffee,
cup, yes,
and he's like, "All right."
It's a very good moment. But yes, they talk about like Schneider basically says that like Yang and Bucock were extremely fortunate to have people who like love and respect them. That like and because in ways, I wonder if Schneider's kind of speaking about Merkatz in a roundabout
a little
way.
bit, yeah.
Like Merkatz is respected, he is admired, he is appreciated, but nobody is going to shed tears for Merkatz other than maybe Schneider himself. Like he doesn't command any loyalty because he and Schneider basically like defected from the Empire by themselves. Like they didn't bring any like other like Empire loyalists with them.
Few people on the crew of the ship who will remain nameless because they're not important.
Yeah, like at most like maybe a couple hundred people. Like and there's this idea that like Bucock died, but Bucock died like a hero. He died loved, like cherished by like there are people who there exist people who will mourn him and will mourn him as like I mean even the Empire respected his death, right? And like saluted him. Like they acknowledged and honored his sacrifice. Like when Merkatz dies, like the Empire will not shed a tear. Like
right.
Like when Merkatz dies will just be the final nail in the coffin of the Golden Bomb dynasty. Like when Merkatz dies, that's just housekeeping.
Yeah, we're still waiting for Bungling Poet to come back.
Yes, we are still waiting for the Bungling Poet to make his dynamic return. Yes, at the last second. But yeah, they have an interesting dynamic. I kind of hope we get to see more of this in the future.
Says, Schneider, you're a fool. He could have gotten so far under Reinhard.
Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah, and Yang is like, well, according to my calculations, Lebello is probably going to be assassinated
yes,
because he set a precedent by throwing me under the bus. That you
yes,
should throw your superiors under the bus.
yes. For better, for as much as we complain about Yang worrying about precedents, turns out this is the one time where Yang worrying about precedents turns out exactly as he feared, because Lebello set the precedent of going after Yang. Like Lebello himself is cornered by
The
Rockfield
staff,
and
basically.
the other, like, basically what's left of the senior FPA staff, like, and these are nobody special. These were like
opportunistic dirtbags.
right. These were low to mid tier, like pencil pushing opportunistic dirtbags who like have survived this long by basically always betting on the winning horse.
Yeah, this is the most put together Lebello has been in ages.
Yeah, we find out that turns out with that when Lebello's got a fucking gun in his face that like the last time we saw Lebello, his face was like gaunt, like he had not eaten in like days. His hair was frazzled. Like
Right.
the Lebello we see here is like the Lebello of
Lebello
like
classic.
season 1. Like, yes, Lebello classic. Like, this is like the Lebello that's like, go ahead and shoot. You're only going to kill a man. Like this Lebello was fucking stone cold. He is like,
right. Everyone's like, you'd throw us to the wolves too if vampires for our heads. He says they would never ask your heads because you're not young Wenli.
Yes. Lebello gets a hell of a roast on these guys.
But we learned it from you, Dad.
Yeah, right.
We should throw you to the wolves.
Right. Of course, that's their response to Lebello. But yes, basically. But yes, Lebello kind of gets the last word in, where he's like, "Feel free to have your coup, but like, you realize that like this coup is worth nothing to the Empire, right? Like, you guys are throwing me under the bus in like this vain hope that like Reinhard will look at you guys, you traitors who like killed your head of state, and they'd be like, that's the people I want in my future empire."
Yeah.
And like, because
go ahead and try to buy your security with my blood.
Yeah, basically, like Lebello, like whether he actually knows like Reinhard well enough or not, on some level knows that like actually it's too late. It's too late for anybody to betray anybody to try and like
curry favor.
Like, if you wanted to curry favor with Reinhard, you should have done that like a year ago. Like, at this point, anybody who's trying to curry favor with him is like, these are the dying grasps of like the desperate and the cornered. And with all that said, they blast the shit out of Lebello.
Yep.
Yes,
and
surrender to the Empire fleet.
Yeah,
an unconditional surrender, which is I think a very important wording. I'm not going to go fully into it here, but just to kind of bring up the most, probably the most recent and most relevant to a Japanese piece of fiction event in history is, of course, Japan's own surrender to the U.S. forces during World War II. Often the argument for why, or not the argument, but the explanation for Japan's a reluctance to surrender, even in the face of their overwhelming annihilation, was that America demanded an unconditional surrender, whereas Japan wanted a conditional surrender. Basically, for those unaware, the difference is that an unconditional surrender means you give up entirely.
The winner can impose whatever the hell they want on you.
Whatever the winner wants from you, they get. A conditional surrender is usually done in a situation where the side that is obviously going to win still has like...
It would still take a lot, right?
Right, it's still an uphill battle, so they're still willing to hear you out because, like, maybe... what the FPA earned the first time they were conquered was basically a conditional surrender.
Right.
Like, they got their own... They got the Treaty of...
Treaty of Bartlett.
Yes, they got the Treaty of Bartlett. They got certain guarantees, like... they ensured they signed in the agreement that like Reinhard would not prosecute like the FPA leadership. That was a conditional surrender. These are often done because a nation believes that even if they're defeated, they still have enough clout left to argue for certain things that they believe are so intrinsic to the nation that they must be defended at all costs.
Yeah.
For example, Japan's own reasoning for their conditional surrender is their fear that an unconditional surrender would mean that America would execute the emperor. This fear was largely unfounded. The American leadership never really had a plan for that. Like, at most, they wanted to depose the emperor, but they didn't have any plans to execute him. But, look, when you're in wartime and communications are a little spotty, I suppose it is easy to come to that conclusion. Anyways, point is, at this point, the FPA has run out of chips on the table. They have nothing left to bargain with.
Yeah.
So the Empire arrives. They immediately put the boot down and start calling the shots immediately.
Yeah. Reinhard arrives. Walks next to Lebello's body.
Yes.
And, sets forth to install his own staff, etc., etc.
Yes. Reinhard starts doing what Reinhard does best, which is putting talented people in the right places of power to ensure the legitimacy and efficiency of his nation, as he is wont to do.
And then Bittenfeld shows up.
Bittenfeld, I love this.
He's like, hey, just walks up to the limo.
Right. So
knocks on the window.
Yes, to set the scene, Reinhard is in a limo in a motorcade, kind of traveling down the streets of Heinessen, as tons of FPA and probably Empire onlookers are on the sides. And from the opposite direction, an armored car approaches the limo and stops, and fucking Bittenfeld just steps out of the back and strolls right up to the limo and kneels where Reinhard lowers the window.
Slowly lowers the window.
Yes. The only way this scene would have been better is if they still use those old school hand crank window things, and it was Reinhard himself turning the crank. But so Bittenfeld is basically like, hey, so I found some people trying to assassinate you down the road. I got them.
Right. We're going to arrest them. They shot themselves.
Yes.
But we should investigate all of their families and backgrounds and take care of them.
Right. Bittenfeld's like, but don't worry, I'm going to arrest their families. And Reinhard's like, Bittenfeld,
don't do that.
Yes, thank you for your gung-ho approach. I appreciate your gusto, but do not persecute the families of the assassins, please.
I don't want to be Rudolph von Goldenbaum.
Yes. And Bittenfeld's like, well, I guess if you say so.
Okay.
But yes. So we so after that we find that the full and complete takeover of the FPA begins here. But in the process, we find out that there remain yet a few tiny embers of democracy. I only wrote down the name of the first guy. Vicious Adler is here.
I have
to
a few
defend
names
democracy.
here.
Okay, basically
Council Officer Vicious Adler, Office of Financial Affairs Department Chair Claude Montaigne. Let's see, Secretary Supreme Council, Junior Secretary Supreme Council Graham Everett Noelbaker. Low-level bureaucrats, let's say mid to low-level bureaucrats.
Like the fact that they all of them say vice or junior in their title should tell you enough.
Right.
But the scene is basically you have a bunch of Empire goons basically demanding the complete turnover of all FPA information and documents to the Empire, basically demanding the complete and unconditional surrender. But
Stonewall bureaucracy, baby.
Right. Some real fucking primo DMV on a bad day shit.
Only the only people who have access to tax information are tax-paying citizens.
Right. I mean, and not only that, but they're saying it in the most fucking
legalese,
drab legalese way of well, technically, only civilians can access that information. They need to make a request. You need to be a taxpayer to be a civilian who can access this.
I received this request writing from a man claiming to be the emperor of the galaxy.
But we here in the FBA do not officially recognize that position. As a result, it holds no power. Just very very good.
To expect the room without any legal precedent.
Yes, just very good, and it's really, I really love this scene. It's such a minor scene, but I loved it because it is a reminder. It is a reminder of both. It is both. It is a great moment, but it's also bittersweet because it is a reminder that even at a government at its worst, at its most corrupt, at its most compromised, there have always existed good people who truly believe in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And often the tragedy, as we've seen here time and time again with the FPA in this specific time period of their existence, is that those people never rose to the positions that they deserved. Right. If guys like Visius Adler were running the show, even a year ago, I was going to say 2 years ago, but even 6 months ago, if a guy like Visius Adler was running the show, just how different would things have been?
Right.
And we get
even Reinhard is the alliance perished because men such as these were kept in the middle ranks.
Right. They were kind of kept in, they were kept in middle management hell. And and of course, again, I think we've made it pretty clear in this podcast, we do not tend to defend or justify the tenets of autocracy, but scenes like these are important because they show that the strength of an autocracy is that if the person at the very top is talented, is intelligent, is meritocratic, that dude can just be you guys are talented, fuck promotions, you're going up to the top, you're coming up here with me, basically, right? What he did with Reuenthal, what he did with Mittermeyer, that the rapidness of the system is an advantage, because the thing is that the rest of this episode is basically just a montage of Reinhard just fixing coming in here, kicking out all the toxic elements of the FPA and fixing it up. The next scene
he has a meeting with the people who shot up Lebello.
Right.
And they're yeah, we helped.
Yeah,
you should be merciful to us.
Yeah, and he's and right, and fucking, I love that that Reinhard didn't do this on accident, because look, Reinhard could have brought any admiral with him into this meeting, but he specifically brought Fahrenheit, probably knowing that
League.
Yes, and so of course Rockwell is well, what about Fahrenheit? He betrayed his lord and joined up with you, and Fahrenheit, and Reinhard's this is a great line. Reinhard's Admiral Fahrenheit, what do you think of that? And Fahrenheit's I'm honored.
I'm honored to be compared to these men.
Yes. And yes, so
dryly.
He's so dry, fucking Sahara dry. And yes, so Reinhard basically orders these men to be dragged away and executed. But sadly, even though Reinhard is from the Empire, they are not executed by being pinned down and fed poison. We just see them get dragged away. So, assumably by firing squad.
Yeah, and Reinhard says, "If I were to liken these men to sewage, then the old admiral who died at Maradetta was the pure water of the mountains."
Yes, it's so ridiculous. Just this idea, oh, Bucock, what a pure spring of democracy.
I mean, Reinhard's the type of person who respects people who stand up for their ideals.
Of course. I mean, well, the thing I think is I think we've seen this time and time again. Again, I think the thing we always state is it is very easy for a surface level take to be, oh, Legend of Galactic Heroes is endorsement of autocracy, when it's clearly not. What it is it is showing, well, this is what an autocracy would look like if you happen to be ruled by someone as unique and once in a century as Reinhard. And of course, Reinhard's not even perfect, right? They specifically point out Reinhard doesn't hold a trial for these guys. He just has them executed.
Right.
There was no trial, no legal recourse. Again, yes, these men, do they deserve it? Sure. did Reinhard also decide this on a whim with like no governmental oversight?
Right.
Also,
I mean,
yes.
he is the government.
Yes, exactly. So like on one hand, it's very easy, like, well, look how great things are with Reinhard. On the other hand, it's like,
Also, I just
yeah.
said to kill these like 12 men, and they got killed.
Also, as Yang said, dozens of episodes ago, no matter what, killing children is a bad look.
That did happen.
Yes.
That did happen.
Yeah, let's not forget.
Kill all
Like,
the men over 10.
let's not forget. All right, and we should mention that because that very edict is a little bit relevant in the next couple of episodes.
True. So Reinhard rings his Emil bell, has Emil bring him some white wine, so he can wax poetic about how a phoenix must rise from the ashes. It cannot come back from half burned ground, and that Bucock understood that, which is why he fought to the end. And so he just sprays his wine on the glass,
yes,
as a tribute, as to pour one out for Bucock, I guess.
It's very Reinhard. I half expected him to throw the glass on the ground as well.
Yeah,
when was
I know,
the last
right?
time they did that? I feel like that was like that was one of those like dumbass Empire things that I loved about them in like the season 1.
Yeah,
but I feel like they have not done that in a while.
Get the montage of Reinhard announcing, addressing all citizens about how we must move on, and everyone who lost someone in battle will be treated well, etc., etc. And all the bureaucrats are like, well, shit, because of the idea that he's just charismatic enough to win over the citizens of the democracy.
Yes, the bureaucrats basically come to the horrifying realization that I think some of us in our own society are coming to, that as much as we want to believe that a democratic citizenship will always adhere to the values of a democratic republic, that even the citizens of a democracy can be won over by the allure of a charismatic despot. And that is exactly what happens here. We once again hear the reigning cries of, Sieg Kaiser, Sieg Kaiser.
And Reinhard reads this episode's eponymous Edict of the Winter Rose Garden.
Yes.
That the Free Plants Alliance is fully dissolved, and the only political body in the galaxy now is the Galactic Empire.
Yes.
And therefore, now that it no longer exists, the Free Plants Alliance will be legally recognized.
Yes. It is a very, now that they are no longer a threat, we will finally legally recognize the existence of the FPA. But the message is clear. The FPA is no more.
Yup.
After 273 years, the FPA has come to an end.
Yup.
And
goodbye, FPA. Pour one out for democracy.
Pour one out for democracy, y'all. Like, it's one of those things. Yes. it really.
Sorry.
Oops. It's all good. It's definitely one of those things of like, man, I really hope the Gaiden Legend of Galactic Heroes series goes a little bit more into like, they probably won't, because I hear it's mostly Empire bullshit, which I love.
I hear it's mostly prequel stuff.
Yeah, but like, there's a party that hoped the Gaiden would get into like historical stuff of like back when the FPA was actually hot shit, like back when like, like that one episode where they talk about the history of the FPA, and they talk about like 3 legendary admirals who like single-handedly like beat the shit out of the Empire,
like Lin Pao or something.
Yeah, Lin Pao or something. Like, just like, I want to go back to those days when like democracy was good and effective and like well regulated. But alas, we live in the time of now.
Indeed, and we roll into episode 74, The Long Road Ahead.
Yes. So we kind of open up once again on Reinhard. He is now concerned, now that he has taken over the FPA and unified the galaxy, except for one little spot. He is now trying to figure out what to do with Iserlohn.
Yeah,
which is
still
spot. Being occupied.
Out damn spot.
Yes, and He starts talking about this with like Reuenthal and the others, and I love this scene because at first he's like talking with them, and then like the camera like pans to the side to show that Mittermeyer is there too, just like because like initially the scene looks like it's just Reuenthal, like it's just. I'm sure it's not
Reuenthal, Mueller, and like Valen.
Right. I'm sure it's not intentional, but just the way the camera is framed, you have no clue Mittermeyer is there until
it
he
pans
talks.
over, and it's like it just slowly pans aside. Mittermeyer's there. He says, "I agree with Reuenthal."
Right, Mittermeyer's there too, guys. But maybe the other overarching theme of these 3 episodes is that Mittermeyer is precious and maybe too good for the galaxy he lives in. But yeah, so basically, Reuenthal and Mittermeyer are like, Reinhard, please, as your senior admirals, please do not take to the field and personally confront Yang Wenli in the field of battle.
It never works.
It doesn't work. We cannot guarantee that like Hilda is gonna swoop in and save your ass like she did at Vermilion. Like,
right?
You know that like, and it's because like they know that like regardless of whatever sneaky plan Yang comes up with, right? Like they know at the core Yang's overall game plan is to kill Reinhard, right? If Reinhard is ever on the field, Yang's number 1 priority is to take him off the board.
Yeah.
So, like, it doesn't really matter, like, how strong your army is. If Yang Wenli can gin up some fucking bullshit asteroid plan to get within firing distance of you, like, there is no FPA to, like...
yeah.
There is no FPA to save Reinhard's life this time. Like, and, of course, Reinhard is... And then Hilda
I need to go after Yang myself. That's also what he wants. We need to settle it man to man.
Right. Reinhard's like, that's what Yang would want. He would want to fight me one-on-one. And they're like, yes, of course he wants to fight you one-on-one. He wants to kill you.
Right.
He's like, oh, Reinhard, please. And like, finally Hilda is like, also just like, hey, look.
Just fortify, because there's nothing Yang can do right now.
Right,
other than sit in Iserlohn.
Right. Hilda, again, continues to be
the smartest person in the show.
Continues to be irritatingly the smartest person in the show, because I feel like, let's be real, without Hilda, Reinhard would be dead right now. Like,
it's true.
Like, Reinhard is alive. Yeah, you can say, oh, why is Reinhard alive? Because of his own skills, because of the great admirals he's assigned.
No. Guard von Mariendorf, motherfucker.
Yes, because Hilda has fucking pulled his fucking ass out of the fire so many times. And once again, she's like, think rationally, my lord. What can Yang actually do? Like he literally is holding Iserlohn and Alpha Seal, and even that is going to stretch him thin. Like, his forces are so diminutive. He has so little manpower. Like, even holding both of those at the same time is nearly impossible for him.
Right. Although I think Reinhard's starting to like push back against her council more so, like more and more over time.
Yeah.
And here he's like, oh, this is like a more cowardly opinion than you usually give.
Which is like, Hilda. No, like
Hilda if it's Yang with me, he can stabilize Alpha Seal. He can do it.
Right. I mean, yes. So I'm glad you brought that up, Iro, because we are starting because I don't want to get into baseless speculation mode, but like, finally now here at episode 74, are we starting to see a more despotic turn for Reinhard? Like, he is still like doing the good emperor things that people expect of him, and like this time he finally does relent, right? Like, he's finally like, all right, fine. Only because you guys said so, I'm gonna postpone the Iserlohn invasion. But
he's been like pushing back against them more and more over time. Like, slowly getting to a point where he'll just be like, "No, we're going."
Yes, I think that is what's going to happen, right? Like, we keep seeing Reinhard, like, because remember, like, you know, even at the beginning of season 3, you know, like especially post Vermilion, the Reinhard you get is the Reinhard who's like, yes, like, I should pay attention to my counsel. You know, that's why I picked you guys for the job, because like I want your advice. But now we're getting the Reinhard that's like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna fight Yang. I'm gonna text him. We're gonna meet at the 7-Eleven down the street. I'm gonna take my shirt off, and I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna fight him, and you guys can't stop me. And and Hilda,
get my car keys.
Right, right. Like, where are my car keys? I'm going down the street. I'm gonna fight Yang. And like, this is in this world. This is like where Reuenthal and Mittermeyer and Hilda are like his roommates. And they're like, please don't do that. You know that like Yang is gonna like bring a posse with him, or he's gonna bring a gun. Like, of course, Yang Wenli would love to challenge you to a bare-chested fist fight, and then like bring a fucking bat to the fight because like that's what Yang would do. Like, let's not like
Yang would bring a bat to this fight.
yeah, and Yang yes,
He
and
hammered
Yang,
nails into it.
yeah, and Yang would bring a fucking gun to a knife fight. Like, let's be real. Like, I love Yang. Yang would Yang would cackle with glee if he could ever fucking trick Reinhard into a 1v1 duel. Like, oh, just a
It's 1v1, but I don't know why you got out of your car. I mean,
yeah. It's like, yeah, it is. Or, you know, like, what would Yang do? Yang, like, yeah, it is a 1v1. It's you and my second, Shenkop here. Like, Shenkop and his gang are here to fuck your shit up.
is in the fucking, like, in the fucking Gang Wars, Galactic Heroes AU.
Yes, the
the gang leader.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yes. In this fucking high school delinquent AU, for better or worse, Yang would be the fucking villain who like just never ever plays by the rules. But also, like, you can't blame him. He has the smallest gang, and his school is full of fuck ups. So,
hey, look, you need someone to lead the like preppies.
Look, I'm just saying, after the arc where Lebello became president, you can tell that FPA High just kind of goes off the deep end. You know? There's no saving it after that, you know? Like, you thought
Reinhard finally defeated their guardian, Bucock.
Yeah, like you thought Principal Trunic was bad. Well, somehow Principal Lebello, somehow even worse.
Christ.
Or yes. So what would that be equivalent? Is that then like is Lebello like the? I mean, not Lebello. Is fucking Bucock then like the fucking like gym teacher,
the janitor?
And does that like make Andrew Fork right? Like, is that he like the prep? Like, is Andrew Fork the fucking student council president? You just shot her into a coma.
The teachers finally got wind of the shit you're pulling.
Yeah.
You think you can do this just because you're student council president?
Yes. Fucking gym teacher Bucock has had enough of your bullshit. Fucking Yoshiki Tanaka, give us a call. You can send a check to our PayPal at. All right. Anyways.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on Iserlohn, the Alpha Seal suits are being dicks. And basically saying, hey, we should go get Heineken and fight the Empire. We'll win because we got Yang Wenli.
And Yang Wenli is like, that's not how that works. And
we have no chance of victory right now.
Right. These fucking Alpha Seal suits are like, well, why don't you give us a percentage then? What's the chance? And like, Yang's like, it's like fucking nothing. It's like less than 10%. Like... Like, we're talking about, like, fucking Evangelion tier, like, chances of success.
0.00000.
Yeah. And, of course, and then the Alpha Seal guy's like, well, you know, I heard that at the Battle of Vermilion, you could have killed Reinhard, and then you didn't, and now the FPA is dead, so whose fault is it really? And I'm like, you fucking...
Right, Young makes a face, and he says, I was just joking!
Right, the Alpha Seal guy, right, yes, they're like, I was just joking, bro. Like, it's satire. It's just like, ugh, what a fucking...
My personal attack on your character is just satire, man.
Yeah, very, you know, like some Twitter accounts out there. It's just satire, bro. But like, man, what a fucking like these fucking pieces of shit. Like, there was like a millisecond episodes ago. It's like, oh, maybe things are finally going to go Yang's way. Like, now that the FPA has been so thoroughly like downtrodden, maybe politicians will finally pay attention to Yang Wenli. No, even when what's left of democracy is down to one fucking space colony and a single goddamn planet, people are still selfish and greedy and short-sighted.
Yup, and we get some more just Shenkop saying Yang should take power.
Right, where yeah,
As he's been saying the whole time.
right. He's telling it to Julian, and of course he's telling this to Julian again, like because
Uh-huh.
Julian is the only person who will fucking like humor Shenkop. So like he's like, yes, we've heard this a million times, Shenkop. Yang should throw a coup, take over the government, and like, and of course, and there's a great bit here where like Shenkop basically admits he's telling this to Julian because the last time he told this to Yang, Yang got mad at him. So he's like, well,
Right.
I have to complain about it to you now because Yang gets mad every time I bring it up. It's like, I wonder why.
Yeah.
I mean, again, look, I really don't blame Shenkop. Like, again,
Right.
like, I love Yang, but like, I think, like, me personally, I'm kind of more along the lines of a Bucock or a Shenkop. I am of the mind that maybe perfect is actually the enemy of good, but
Mhm.
that's and that perhaps certain elements of our own political spectrum perhaps have too high of standards for each other and are self-devouring each other in ways that could have been avoided if everybody
Uh,
just relaxed their extremely stringent standards just a bit. But that's a conversation for another day.
that's a whole other conversation.
But yes, Shenkop is basically just like, again, imagine how much like hardship we could have avoided if Yang had just listened to me. And Julian, of
Mhm.
course, is like, yeah, but if Yang listened to you, then he wouldn't be Yang Wenli.
It's true.
Yeah, but they get interrupted by this because they decide. Is this where Karin shows up?
Yes. She decides she's seeking an audience with Shenkop, and
Right. So
so
Julian
Julian
bails.
like quickly exits the room.
Right, which
Uh,
I don't understand. Like, I get it, of course, this time, but I feel like every time Karen has showed up,
just
Julian has
run.
just like not only that, but Julian has this horrific knack for just showing the worst side of him whenever Karen is on screen. Because
Yeah.
like we know that Julian is this fucking cool, calm, collected, intelligent, like fucking
Right.
like a starfighter pilot, skilled CQC combatant. But every time Karen is there, Julian's like, "Oh, so hi, Karen," and then like runs out the room. It's like, how could you blame her for thinking, why does everybody like that guy? He's such a fucking wimp. But anyways, yes. So Karen is
Yeah.
here to speak with Shenkop, and
Says,
initially,
right.
she
Oh, why'd you take me off the battle list for the operation to recapture Iserlohn?
yes, and at first Shenkop, of course, takes the very like patronizing, like patriarchal, like, well, I just don't like to see a girl fight. But he further admits, but if I'm being honest, it's actually because look, like you're my kid.
Right.
I'm not gonna make you fight.
I mean, he basically said, he basically says, if you wanted to question me about being a poor father, you should just ask me that instead of like trying to cloak it
yes,
in a disrespect to my field command.
right, which is a pretty fucking good counter, I gotta say. Which Karen rolls with. She's like, all right, fine. Like then in that case, let me just lay down the table. Like, and she's basically like, I've never expected much from you, Dad. Like, I don't even really consider you my father. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but like, I have to know, like, did you at least love my mother? And Shedkop gives a
Very
pretty
Shenkop line.
yeah, pretty shitty response, if I'm being frank. Like,
Yeah, it's a very
I
because
mean,
the answer is like no, probably not.
right. Because yes, the answer, and it's like Shenkop, like as much as Shenkop was just like, "Hey, be more direct with me." Shenkop is basically walking around in circles to a bit, like, "No, like your mother was just like another like one night stand. Like I was like young and an asshole, and like also like Reuenthal, I pump and dump, like and like what do you want from me?"
Mhm.
And you know, Karen is like, yeah, I basically expected as much, but I'm glad I got to hear you admit it. And but look, no kid wants to find out their parent is as much of a dirtbag as they fear they are.
Yeah,
Like so she kind of
he's trying.
I don't know if Shunkop's trying. I got to be
Right.
honest.
Yeah,
But it is
yeah,
like yes, Shunkop cares in like his roundabout way of like, not assigning her to like the Iserlohn invasion, but like I don't know. Like, yes, his way of caring is like the very distant, patronizing way that, like,
yeah.
you know. like, I mean, we see it here where like Poplan strolls in and he's like, "You gotta agree, you sure have a way with the ladies, huh? Don't you, Shenkup?" And like,
Right.
uh,
We also get a really quick scene. We get a scene here where Poplin's talking to Dusty,
right, yes, yes,
saying, "Look, Dusty," or Dusty's like, "Poplin, I have something very important to talk to you about. We need a good catchphrase."
yes. Oh my
The
god, I forgot about
Empire,
this.
everyone is able to say "Sieg Kaiser Reinhard," and it's a great catchphrase for them. But
We can't exactly
we don't
use
have
that.
one. The only thing I
Yeah,
could come up with was "Viva Democracy."
it's like that's cheesy. Like, I just fucking love every fucking time these two guys are on screen. It's just like, even as serious as things are now, they're still like, what fucking dumbassery can we get up to today? And I would watch an entire episode of these two just going around asking the crew suggestions for cool slogans.
Yeah.
Like, fucking, and I want to see them. I want to see them ask everybody. I want them to go. I want them to ask fucking Mirai, like,
Marai,
"Hey,
Patrichev,
like,
yeah.
you got a cool slogan for democracy? Like, just fucking ask everybody. Like, just go around the ship." But
Yep. Yeah, and then he walks into Chenkop's office to basically
yeah,
tell him off a little.
yeah, and basically Poplin like is confronting like Shankov about Karin, basically saying like, "I'm concerned about her emotional state, like, you know, like, whatever you want to like play things however you want to, Shankov, but she is a subordinate under my command, and like, you know, I
Yeah.
need her like at her best, and your behavior is not helping."
Hmm.
And
Says
you
that
know,
she is young and inexperienced and having trouble with her emotions.
yes, and
Which was like the reminder to me that like half of these soldiers are like 15.
yeah, like again, like Julian is not even that much older, right? Like a lot of these are very young men, and I mean, how much of that is an effect of all the old men are dead, but
Yeah.
also just like, you know, well, anyways, Poplin finds Karin, and turns out that Poplin actually maybe was right about going into social counseling
The
once this war is over.
multi-talented Poplin.
Poplin, a multi-talented individual. Like, at first, I was totally ready for like Poplin to do his Poplin thing of like telling like bad crude jokes to like somehow pull Karen out of her mood, but actually Poplin gives some pretty solid advice here,
Right.
where he's like, "Look, I'm not gonna like
The only people with a good home life are Kazelnu's kids.
yeah, like, if you're here with Yang on this fleet, like,
We're
we've
the
all had a hard
irregulars.
life. Yeah, we are called Yang's irregulars for a reason." And like,
He tries to bring up Julian as an example of like he's a war orphan too, and like
yeah, yeah,
he'd had to be raised by some weirdo like Yang Wenli, and
yeah.
Karen's just straight up like, why you bring up him?
Right, and I have expected Poplin then to like proceed with saying, "And actually, like, Julian is
I hear he's
super
very
hot.
handsome.
I hear he's very handsome. I heard he's got a six pack. I heard he's very
He's
cool."
shredded. I
Yes,
heard Julian is shredded.
like bless Poplin, like doing his
He's
best to
still trying to
fucking
wingman
like
for his.
wingman for Julian here, despite Julian's every effort to fuck it up. But yes, so finally, after all of this, Young and crew finally investigate the Earth Cult data disk.
Right, and lo and behold, Phezzan's been in bed with the Earth Cult from the beginning.
Yes, they basically
Which we
discover.
pretty much knew ever since the history episode was like,
Yeah,
and the first Lancashire was from Earth.
right. I guess in many ways, like a few podcasts ago, I think we were like speculating about how, like, what kind of bombshells this data disk had. I think in retrospect, I think more of the implication is that that data disk was filled with information we knew, but like the
Right,
point of like this data disk was to finally communicate that information to Young and his crew. Like,
right.
so
Probably
basically
the like
now,
important thing is that it immediately fills Young. Like Young's plan was to hook up with Phezzan to get funding and
yeah,
stuff, basically. But now he's like, I don't know if I want to do that because they're in bed with the Earth Cult.
right, but Nonetheless, he has a mission for the elder Konev.
Indeed. Because he
Says
is, as a Phezzani merchant, he is, they basically send him to go check in on what's going on, especially
right.
what's up with Rubinsky.
Yes, because speak of the devil, Rubinsky, a character we have not seen in a while.
Yeah.
Turns out he is moving in the shadows once again. But yes, basically they send Konov to back to Phezzan to investigate and also, if possible, still try and find some drum up some financial support for young Wenli.
Yeah, and Young slumps in his chair and
Proceeds
has
to
to deal
have
with
the
all
most
that.
fucking real ass
Right.
conversation he has
Which
had in this show in a
there's a
while.
scene with Rubinsky first.
Yes, okay, yes,
Right,
fine.
Rubinsky in his fucking fancy ass mountain cabin. He's just
Yes.
sitting on his bench drinking whiskey, and then is wearing his fucking sweater vest or whatever.
Yes, his
With
ridiculous
Dominique
fucking yes. And
saying that they're gonna target, they're gonna use Lang.
yes. So Robinsky has decided his next puppet after Oditz is Lang because
Right, if we can make Oberstein and Lang and Reuenthal fight each other, then perhaps we can make use of that situation.
right, it will destabilize the empire. So we know that that is certainly what is on the table for Rubinsky. Then we have the conversation here with Yang, Frederica, and
Yeah,
Julian, where as much as this is a conversation, I feel like this is also just like a 5-10 minute long introspection for Yang, just self interrogating his own ideals and where they have led him in the last 70 episodes.
right. And I mean, as we have said multiple times, basically starts talking about autocracy and democracy,
Yeah.
and how autocracy is very effective when you want to make very fast, very drastic changes to the system, and but democracy is roundabout. It takes a long time to make changes happen,
Right. But
and so
that
and that everybody in democracy gets tired of how slow it is. Says,
yes.
let's just give all the power to a great politician and have them fix everything.
Right. He basically talks about how democracy is tiring because it takes so much work to self-police that
Yeah.
because progress can be so slow. I mean, fucking A, here we are in 2019 hoping we can
Yup.
turn things around in 2020. Even if we do, it will be slow and gradual to reverse just the damage that has already been done in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And because of that, it is oh so tempting, even for good, rational people, to be fuck it. What if we just let so and so fix everything? If he could just do it with none of these pencil pushers, none of these asshole politicians, none of these bureaucrats getting in the way, if just so and so could just fix everything, why shouldn't he? I mean, it's the temptation. It's exactly what it's Shenkop's mindset, right? That is a man who is tired of all this shit. Hell, look at us. We constantly are please, Young, just
Just do it, Young.
do
Save us.
something. I don't even need you to become president for life. I'm just saying, be a little bit more proactive in the political sphere, and it's and Yang just he keeps his foot down. He's each he insists a democratic military should never ever be involved with politics. They should always be separate, and the military should always be subordinate to the civilian-led government. And
Yeah.
it's something he truly believes in. He truly stands by it. At most, he entertains the idea of well, or no, he doesn't. Sorry, that was Shenkop, right?
Which part?
Shenkop said that, yeah, I kind of wish Bucock was still alive because
Bucock
Bucock,
would have taken control and Yang
right?
would have served under him.
Yeah,
Yeah, Shinkoff says that earlier.
like Bucock would have like gladly become president of Alpha Seal, like if if he were still alive, because like Bucock is just pragmatic enough and practical in his views of democracy to like be to entertain that concept, but Yang never would, because like it is so like core to his character, like this idea of like what an ideal democracy is and why, even with all the hardship, even with the death of the like most major democratic government in the galaxy, even with it like truly and finally permanently gone, he still believes that ideal is worth fighting for, that ideal is worth preserving, that even should he fail, like even should like Reinhard succeed and wipe out the resistance movement, that like he must fight for that ideal version of democracy so that one day, like someday in the distant, like fucking centuries, someone will look at his actions and like and model themselves after those ideals. And
Yeah.
it's just such a fucking, galaxy brain take on it that like is both deeply admirable but also makes me want to pull out my hair.
Yeah.
Like we even get a bit of that from Julian here of all
Right. He's
people.
like, I wish you would have like acted upon self-interest, personal feelings, and just blown up Reinhardt.
Yeah, like Julian basically says, "I wish you were less selfless," and
Mm-hmm.
because like Julian of all people knows how self-destructive Yang's selflessness is. Like again, Julian, I mean Yang beating himself up about Bucock's death, a death that like frankly he could have never prevented. Like
Yeah.
like he just holds himself to this impossible standard, and it just further cements like the bittersweet tragedy of the character. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like what Rubinsky said all of those episodes ago. Like we'll keep tightening the thread, and Yang Wenli will either like rise to the top or he'll fall off. And I feel like this season is like making an explicit point
Right.
of which direction Yang will take
Yeah.
when that time comes.
Straight up like talks about how being like allow like following the order to not shoot Reinhard was in his own way like being extremely selfish to like maintain his own ideals,
Yeah.
and perhaps he should have like had more responsibility to the soldiers under his command.
Yes. I mean, again, like, of course Yang thinks about this, but I am glad that this stuff is being vocalized in the show. Like, I
Right.
think we know Yang's character so well that we know Yang would think about, like, the consequences of sparing Reinhard, like, that in many ways, like, Yang doomed Bucock to death because he spared Reinhard. Like,
Yeah.
of course, it's a deeply, like, short sighted thing to say, oh, it's Yang's fault that Bucock is dead, but also in some roundabout way, like, Yang's actions did contribute to the death of
Yeah.
one of his closest friends. And like, we talked about this like last season, like how much of Yang's ideology is also his own like his own passivity, his own like almost his cowardice to to make those hard choices the way Reinhardt does.
Is it
Like,
really self-sacrificing to do the things he does, or is it like selfishness?
or is it actually the path of least resistance?
Right.
Because like in many ways, like yeah, again, I'm no
That's what
philosopher here,
yeah,
but
like I
like
said, it was easy for him to follow the order to not shoot him because that's you know
right, it's very easy for Yang to be like, well, that's my philosophy. I always follow the civilian government. So when they said don't shoot Reinhard, that gave me an easy out. But like,
right.
actually,
Totally.
would the more selfless thing to do would it have been to take that shot, right?
Yeah.
Like and go against your personal morality. Like,
Who can say? I
yeah.
mean, even Young is like, I can't. Look at me.
I
I'm
mean, I
just
mean,
going over this again. I
yes,
can't do
yes.
this right now.
I mean, I think it's very important
Get
that
some tea.
this Right. I think it's very important that this conversation doesn't even end with like a definitive conclusion to their conversation. It doesn't end with an easy answer. Like, because there are no easy answers about this sort of thing. Like, this is just yet another thing that Yang will have to ponder for the fucking
Yup.
rest of his life. And
However long or short it may be.
yes. I mean, and with all that taken care of, we finally return to the
Yeah.
Empire, where it turns out that the invasion of Iserlohn is about to get delayed for another reason.
Yeah.
By the letter titled "The Letter That Stopped the 10,000 like
10 billion soldiers.
right the 10 million soldiers." Reinhard receives a credible letter
From the chief of legal affairs.
accusing Reuenthal of some treasonous behavior.
Gasp! Disquieting actions on part of Reuenthal.
Yes.
And that moves us into episode 75, Rolling Thunder.
Yes, where we return to Heinesid because Mueller is here to meet with Reuenthal. And
I wanted to say Odin by reflex, and then I corrected myself. No,
yeah, I know, right?
And then I corrected myself. No, right now Reinhardt is on Heinesid.
Yes, it's so fucking all twisted up. Yes, so Reuenthal is eating breakfast. Mueller's there. It's so good. Mueller's like, Reuenthal, I have a message from Reinhardt, and Reuenthal is like, well,
oh, good
sit
time.
down, have
We're
breakfast
just having
with me.
breakfast.
And Mueller's like, I'll wait. And Reuenthal's like, well, I'm not skipping breakfast.
You can sit here while I finish, and then we can speak.
And anyways, Mueller gives Reuenthal the news. He has been summoned to Reinhard on accusations of, as you said, Iro, disquieting behavior.
And they bring up that not only did Lang and Oberstein sign these summons, but also Bruckdolf of Legal Affairs.
Chief of Legal Affairs, yes.
And also that if it had only been Lang and Oberstein, nobody would have given a shit.
Yes. I love the self-awareness that if Oberstein and Lang got together, let's write a note that says Reuenthal has done some bad shit. Reinhard
everyone would have been like, ugh.
Right,
waste my time, you idiots.
Yes, like that letter probably wouldn't have even made it to Reinhard, because Reinhard would have been like, "You fucking idiots!" Like, but this is where it's important. Where like Lang and Oberstein do some important political maneuvering here because they get Bruckdolf on board, and that lends an air of credibility to the
and we get a line here about how Bruckdolf is notable because he was in charge of the Benemunde affair.
Yes, remember
from like 70 episodes ago.
Yes, remember our dearly departed Lady Benemunde. May she rest in peace after being held down and forced poison.
Oh man, I didn't expect that story to.
May we remember the time she hired fucking Phantom of the Opera masqueraded assassins to kidnap Reinhard's sister.
I always will remember that episode because we were still arguing over whether we should keep watching the next episode previews.
Right.
And I was like, we can keep watching them because we saw D&T and we know it's coming up. And then that, not 10 seconds later, here's the next episode preview of men in masks shooting at cars. And fucking like
not present in D&T at all. It's so good.
It's like, all right, you made your point, show.
Yes. I miss those Empire shenanigans sometimes. Like, the problem is that Reinhard runs the Empire so well, it's gotten a little boring.
Smooth.
Like, there are no like selfish, decadent nobles running the show anymore.
Right. All we get is Reuenthal banging ladies.
Yeah, all we get is like Reuenthal's antics basically. But so basically Bruckdolf, because Bruckdolf is kind of considered like this very honest, straight-laced, by-the-book guy, like when he is presented these findings by Lang on good faith, like we get a good behavior where Bruckdolf was like, I don't know.
I don't really believe this, but
it is my duty. Yes, it is my duty to investigate. And of course, the trick here is that like Reuenthal isn't actually a traitor, or at least we have not seen him do anything traitorous up till now. The
Like
problem,
they straight up say like he wants to do this by the book to establish like to create a precedent that legal affairs can influence the
yes,
military because the
right,
military like might take over or like
yes,
might
yes.
like get ahead of themselves.
Right. Yeah. So, like, in many ways, Bruckdolf is the ideal bureaucrat because he wants to ensure that there is legal precedent for doing things the right way. The problem here is that, like, often what is right and what is lawful are not always the same. And this is definitely not to imply what Reuenthal has done is right, but it is to show that, like, Reuenthal hasn't actually done anything traitorous, but he has done just enough things that are kind of shady that like Bruckdolf is able to put together a case. And of course, a guy like Bruckdolf, like if he were to like look at this case objectively, would be like, well, Reuenthal has done some kind of shady things, and it should be brought to Reinhard's attention about this whole this whole what's her name,
Elfried
Elfried thing.
von
But like,
Kohlrausch,
right, but like that Bruckdolf like, but we're gonna do this by the book. We're gonna do this proper.
right?
Like, we're not gonna like
Cauldron
start like
interviewer.
we're not gonna start a witch hunt yet. But
I'll question this
Lang
woman directly.
but Lang manages to wrestle authority of the investigation away from Bruckdolf by citing that because Reuenthal is a member of the military, this has now become a military legal affair instead of a civil
Like he basically
legal
says,
affair.
like specifically because Reuenthal's not broken any laws, the legal affairs can't do anything.
Right.
It's for internal security.
Yes. And so Bruckdolf, because he does this by the book, gets outplayed by Lang, and
Fuck Lang. Just
yes,
for the
and
record.
Lang basically gets to use Bruckdolf's like legitimate and like probably good and just work as a tool against Reuenthal. So
Yep.
as said before, fuck Lang. Somehow in a show with many punchable faces, Lang somehow has the most punchable one of all. It's
He's up there,
truly
top three
impressive.
for sure.
It truly is impressive in a show with characters like Trunit and Andrew Fork that
Lang
like
is so
like if you
scummy.
like if you put Lang, Fork, and Trunit in a room and gave me a gun with one bullet,
Oh man.
I would actually be very like I'm not act. I'd be very conflicted. I'd be like, this is actually
That's tough.
This is a very difficult conundrum.
Yes.
But
okay, guys, line up.
yes, exactly. I would ask them to line up. Yes, that is the actual play here. But then you gotta ask who lines up in front of who. But anyways, yes. So because Lang uses Bruckdolf's credibility, it gets Reinhardt to actually believe and buy into this idea that Reuenthal actually should be legitimately investigated.
Mm-hmm.
So Reuenthal is kind of placed under house arrest of sorts.
Yeah, we do get a quick bit of Oberstein basically saying to Lang that if this doesn't work out, I will absolutely throw you under the bus.
Right.
Not in as many words, but
yes. I mean, it's hard to tell how much Oberstein actually means this or not, but Oberstein says, Lang, we're doing important work here. We are doing the very important work of holding our leadership accountable. This is very important work that we are doing.
Yeah,
I hope that you are not using this as an excuse to avenge a petty grudge against Reuenthal. I certainly hope that is not what you are intending to use this case for.
That would be very disloyal.
Yes, and of course, like the thing here is, of course, this is what Oberstein says. But I think on some level, Oberstein actually doesn't care as long as he gets to discredit Reuenthal one way or another.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, people like Lang are just tools to him. But that is what Oberstein lays on the table. Anyways, if nothing else, as a way to cover his own ass.
Right. And Mittermeyer is informed and is not happy.
Finally gets the news. Mittermeyer is mad. He's like, what?
I need to go talk to Reuenthal.
Right. They arrested my best friend, Reuenthal. Like,
let me talk
Reuenthal,
to him.
who remembers my birthday. Reuenthal, who brings flowers for my wife. Well, anyways, he's my best friend, and I'm gonna go see him. And all of Mittermeyer is like supporters like, please, Mittermeyer, don't do this. It's like, how dare you try to stop me from seeing my best friend? And they're all like, just calm down, Mittermeyer. Like, you're all gonna make things worse by going to see Reuenthal. Like, you might get like associated with him if things go real bad in this trial. Like Mittermeyer, please keep your cool. And like
Bittenfeld.
there's this great line with like Mittermeyer, please, like if you see him in bad, like they might think that like you have a bad conscience, and Mittermeyer's like, I don't even have an iota of a bad conscience, which is like, it was so fucking like Mittermeyer is so fucking pure. Like, because like if literally anybody else in this show said that with a straight face, I would laugh them out the room. But Mittermeyer is the one person in this whole fucking show who could say, I have a good conscience. And I'm like, yeah, he's probably right.
Yeah. And she's trying to like rationalize.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, Kaiser Reinhard ordered us to kill all the men over 10 and
exile the women and children.
But he never said we couldn't take them out of exile.
Right.
So it's fine. Reuenthal's fine.
Right, guys? And all the all the supporters are fucking stone-faced quiet. Except for one that's just like, look, let's just not worry about the trial for now. Let's wait until...
very respected. I'm sure it's fine.
Yes. And we have this brief moment where all of a sudden, for a brief moment, Mittermeyer realizes the shape of the universe. He has this line where he's like, what is the point of authority if I can't even see my best friend? And like,
I'm inferior into a commoner.
Right. And it's like it is an oh so brief moment. But in this moment, Mittermeyer, like, we talked about how Yang and Reinhard had that art discussion about like what if there are universal truths and if they are worth discovering, or if we should make our own universal truths. For a brief moment here, Mittermeyer approaches some fucking like Buddhist Zen like fucking enlightenment shit where he briefly recognizes a universal truth. It's so good.
Oh, Mittermeyer.
And only someone with as pure of a heart as Mittermeyer could have come to this realization. But anyways, Reuenthal.
Right. Reuenthal's been confronted, and he says like, I would be so mad if you were saying I was like looting and assaulting and harming citizens, but saying that I might be rebelling is an honor because I'm a warrior.
Yes, he's like yes, it's so good. It's
you're
so much,
you're not helping your case, buddy.
So like Reuenthal's so not helping his case, but also like there is no other way for it. Like for right, it's like if
Reuenthal would absolutely speak this way.
If Reuenthal was in court, right, and the judge was like, how do you plead? Reuenthal would be like, guilty of being too fucking cool. And like everybody would put their hands in their head. Like Mittermeyer would get up from the stance. He'd be like, actually, what Reuenthal is trying to say, like, Reuenthal is just that dude who fucking
puts on the sunglasses.
Like, even when he has the fucking barrel to his fucking forehead, is like, I'm gonna get the last word because I'm the coolest. It's just like, Reuenthal, please. Like, I don't even like, you're not even that good of a person, and I want you to have like maybe an ounce of self-preservation in this situation. And
he goes on to basically say, fuck Lang.
Right.
I know that he's behind this.
Right, like, it's so good. This episode is so good, because like, Reinhard's like, alright, Reuenthal, state your case. And Reuenthal's like, my case? Fuck Lang. This is Lang's fault. He's up to his fucking tricks. Because
he's mad that I yelled at him at that meeting.
Right, he's mad that I fucking schooled on his sorry ass, that I called him out on the piece of shit he is. Like, he just like, yeah, alright, yeah, I am sleeping with like a survivor of like the Licton lots. Whatever, the sex is great. And you know what? Reinhard, maybe you should try getting laid sometime. Maybe then you'd know how good it feels, and maybe you'd understand where I'm coming from. And maybe
he demands an audience with Kaiser Reinhard. And,
right.
And he goes into this fancy throne room. All the other admirals are there on folding chairs.
Yes, they're on folding chairs. Like, they're not even like standing at attention. Or like, you think that this being the Empire, they would have like servants, like you thought like servants would have like brought out like thrones, but like oh shit, right? We're still on Heinessen. Heinessen doesn't have thrones.
Just get
Like,
some folding chairs from office.
right, like the only throne they have is probably Reinhard's. So it's like, shit, what are the admirals gonna sit on? I don't know, check the fucking FPA office. They gotta have something. Well, we found these folding chairs. Damn it, alright, good enough. Like, it's so good. It's so good. And once again, right, so
right. So they're having
Reinhard
an
is like,
audience.
yes, so all the admirals are in the audience, like kind of, just like crossing their arms, waiting to see how this all pans out. Reinhard is like, once again, is like, Reuenthal, how do you plead? Can you explain your disquieting actions?
Mittermeyer
And
jumps up and says, "It's all Oberstein's fault."
right, Mittermeyer once again hopping off. Like I said, coming out and jumping from the stands. Mittermeyer has hopped over the bar. He is approaching the judge. Like he is like climbing his way up to like the judge's fucking seat, like pushing the lawyers aside, being like, "Hey, Reuenthal is my best friend, and let me tell you, fuck Oberstein." It's like, is that your defense? That is how you plead? Is fuck Oberstein? It's like this episode is making me realize, like, as much as we were like, man, why are Mittermeyer and Reuenthal friends? This episode, this is why they're friends, because they're both dumbasses. Like, completely opposite reasons. Like, Reuenthal is a dumbass because he truly believes he is too cool for school, and unfortunately, he has just enough swagger to back it up to buy into his own hype. Conversely, Mittermeyer is a dumbass because his heart is just literally too pure for this galaxy. And, like, he thinks, like, well, if I just say, if Oberstein started it, then
everybody can see that it's Oberstein's fault.
The teacher has to listen, right? Like, if I just say Oberstein and Lang started it, Reinhard will understand.
Christ.
It's so good. Fucking Reinhard is just like, Mittermeyer, please. Like, Mittermeyer, I made you my admiral because of your skills in the field. I did not... He explicitly says, I did not hire you for your way with words. Please sit down. And Mittermeyer's like, oh.
Yeah, and Reuenthal basically says, like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have let that lady stay in my place, but I'm not gonna rebel just because she has sex with me.
Yeah, and
also, I guess she's pregnant.
Right,
I'll have to report that real fast.
Yeah, so Reinhard brings up the accusation of, because we didn't mention, but Bruckdolf interviewed Elfried, and Elfried claimed two things. A, that she was pregnant, and B, that Reuenthal specifically stated, I must work even harder now for the sake of the child. Now, as somebody who's played a couple of the Ace Attorney games, I can tell you why you can cross-examine this testimony, and I can bring some stuff out of the evidence folder to prove why this would never ever happen. And Reuenthal basically states that in show. He's like, that's bullshit, because everybody here knows it. Even my best friend Mittermeyer knows. I fucking hate kids. Like, A, I'd be a terrible parent. B, I fucking hate kids. Like, I'd abort that thing like nothing.
Oh and my god, like, Reuenthal.
Again, it's the way Reuenthal defends himself is like just by being the fucking worst person in the room. Like, like whatever your stance on like abortion is, like if your defense upon hearing, this woman claims that she's pregnant with her child, and the implications of a child of the Lichtenlaw legacy, right? And Reuenthal's like, I don't give a fuck. I'd abort that thing. Fuck it. And it's just like,
Jesus Christ, Reuenthal.
Like, but also but also in a weird way, it is also the best defense Reuenthal could summon, because everybody in that room knows Reuenthal, and so for better or worse,
that seems extremely consistent with this character.
Right? Everybody nods their head, and they're like,
"Yeah, he would.
Yeah, he would. Reuenthal's a dick. He totally would." And with that very rock solid, watertight defense, Reinhard says, well, upon reviewing the evidence, I'm going to take a few days to decide on my sentence.
But do you remember that night you pledged yourself to me?
Yes.
It does bring that up.
So and we have a fucking just like fucking Ace Attorney. We have a flashback to like fucking 5 years ago or
Yeah.
something. We see a young, short-haired Reinhardt, and more importantly, we see Kirky
Kirky
Eyes.
Eyes, our boy Kirky
If
Eyes.
only Kirky Eyes were here.
If
Well,
only
guess
Kirky
what?
Eyes were here.
He is in the past in
Yeah.
an unspoken role.
And so Reuenthal, yeah, we get flashback to when like Reuenthal visited Reinhard in the night to basically say, "Can you help Mittermeyer out of military prison?"
Yes, because as we
Which,
all
as
as we
was
all
said a
vaguely
while ago,
recall, like yes,
Mittermeyer spent time in military prison for going against like the orders of his dirtbag superiors or something.
yes, and again, like I mean, again, once again, Reuenthal Mittermeyer, like those are guys like what's his name,
Which guy?
like the middle management dudes.
Oh,
They're like Visius Adler. Like in a worse version of the Empire, those dudes would have languished in the middle of the ranks forever.
right.
But yeah, so basically Reuenthal's like, I'll pledge allegiance to you, and Mittermeyer will too. Like,
Yeah.
Mittermeyer's not even here to agree to that. And Reuenthal's like, don't worry, Mittermeyer will. I'll convince him. Mittermeyer will agree.
Right.
And
like, why do you care so much about like risking? Why do you care to risk yourself to help this guy? And he's a nice guy.
he's pleasant to be around.
The universe will lose its vitality if a man like him is lost.
Yes, this is the nicest Reuenthal could ever be about literally his best friend, his best and only friend, Mittermeyer, is saying he is pleasant to be around. Which is the most fucking, like, look, I get it. I understand why. I understand why, especially in Japan, especially among the female fan base of Legend of the Galactic Heroes, the Empire is much more popular than the FPA.
Yeah.
I understand. There is some prime shipping material here.
Indeed.
Like, these two are, like, I say Mittermeyer's precious, but in a ways, Reuenthal is a little precious too. If just because of, like, fucking, like, of course this is how Reuenthal would, like, speak about his best friend. Arguably the person he is emotionally closest to in the entire galaxy. And, but actions speak louder than words. Like, Reuenthal's like, I'll serve you for life. And Reinhard is like, well, that's all well and good, but why shouldn't I just curry Braunschweig's favor instead? And Reinhard is like, well, let's play a little mental exercise here. What do you think about the Golden Bomb Dynasty? And
it sucks.
Yes, Reuenthal is like, it sucks. Surgery needs to be done, and it wouldn't be a tragedy if the patient died in the process. Which, again,
maybe Mittermeyer was just trying to imitate Reuenthal.
Yeah.
Man, Reuenthal, you're so cool.
You're so good at metaphors.
I'm gonna practice just to be able to be just like you.
Yes. Did Mittermeyer come up with that dining hall metaphor because of Reuenthal? Like, was Mittermeyer like,
sure,
like, was Mittermeyer like, Reuenthal, listen, I got this great metaphor. I'm gonna compare the battle to a dining hall, and Reuenthal's like, that's great, Mittermeyer. That's so good.
Just takes another cup, drinks from his wine glass.
Right. It's like, you should totally use that one.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so we find out that this is the reason for their loyalty, or at least, the loyalty they've held towards Reinhardt all this time. And yes, anyways, with that flashback taken care of, like, Reuenthal says, and ever since that day, I have never wavered, which we know is not true. But in terms of his on-screen and like external actions, this is technically true. Yeah. Like, Reuenthal has considered treason in the past, but he has yet to actually act on it. So, like, technically, he has remained loyal to Reinhard. But yes, Reinhard's like, well, okay, I'll take your rock solid defense into mind, and I will have a verdict in a few days. And during this whole time, during this whole episode, we keep getting shots focused on one of like Reuenthal's like
this bearded dude, and we're like, who is this guy? Why does the camera keep focusing on him?
Right, this bearded gentleman that we could not immediately recognize. We were like, why did they keep focusing on him? And then we find out at the end of this episode, we are reminded, this bearded fellow is Bergengrun, who was a former subordinate of Kirky Eyes.
Ah, yes.
and we are reminded of one of the longest long cons that we suspected about this show
Right.
all the way
Like,
back in season 1.
he's basically saying like, man, I like serving under Reuenthal, and I remember back when we were under Kirkeyes' command that Oberstein got up to some shit, and if it wasn't for Oberstein, Kirkeyes would have had his gun. He could have shot Ansbach.
Yes, during Ansbach's attempted assassination on Reinhard. For as a reminder to you listeners, basically what Bergengruen is getting into here with what was his name, Burrow, another former subordinate of Kirkeyes who serves under Mittermeyer. Basically explained that after Kirkeyes' death, all of Kirkeyes' subordinates were kind of basically divvied up amongst the remaining admirals. But all these years, they have never forgotten their loyalty to Kirkeyes, and they have ever since held a grudge against Oberstein.
Finally, the show brings us up. Yeah. We were saying this shit.
Yeah,
but it was Oberstein's fault.
Right. And we were going as far as saying Oberstein engineered the assassination. Because remember, I mean, our suspicion was that Oberstein was head of security, right?
Yeah.
How the fuck does Ansbach get a body with a freaking rocket launcher in it into the throne room unless the head of security let it happen? Now, 70 episodes later, the show has neither confirmed nor denied this. I think this will unfortunately be one of those mysteries that is just kind of left to the test of time, but
certainly just not been brought up really.
But Kirkeyes' subordinates certainly believe that Oberstein had a hand in it, whether intentionally or not.
Right. It's basically brought up that they're not really mad at Reinhard because Reinhard was clearly extremely upset over this entire situation, whereas Oberstein was still just his usual unflappable self.
Right. And that by convincing Reinhard to force Kirkeyes to not have his sidearm, got Kirkeyes killed, and that, long story short, as Reuenthal and Mittermeyer have said, fuck Oberstein.
Yep. Yeah, he basically says, Oberstein already deprived me of one of my great superiors. I can't, if he does it again, it'll be ridiculous.
Yes, basically, Burrow and some of the, I forget, is it Burrow or is it another admiral who's like, Bergengruen, I understand your...
I think that's Burrow, yeah.
Okay, Burrow is like, Bergengruen, I understand your fury, but for now, let's not make anything worse for Reuenthal than it already is.
Yeah.
But there is kind of this quiet agreement. Yeah, but also, if Reuenthal takes the hit for this, we're gonna fucking kill Oberstein, right?
Take him out.
And I kind of love that, this show, this fucking beautiful show.
It took 50 episodes.
This show sat on this fucking plot point for over 50 episodes. This is longer than the runtime of, your average Gundam TV anime. This is longer than most shows airing now.
Just let this plot point sit for...
Just simmer.
Yeah.
And in real time during the actual airing of this show, let it simmer for years.
Right.
We're in the mid-90s now when Legend of Galactic Heroes is airing, so almost a decade they have sat on this plot point.
Right.
And I think it's really magnificent, though, the storytelling of this show, because it admittedly, of course, the show had to remind us. But
yeah.
I do think
the second they did, we were like, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. You and I, the second it reminded us who Bergengruen was, we were like, I remember while we were watching this, we were like, oh shit, that's the guy from Kirkeyes' ship. We remembered it immediately. And I think that speaks to how strong the storytelling is in Legend of the Galactic Heroes, that even these long forgotten plot points that were undeniably important at the time but have faded from memory, once they are brought back, it's not like we needed a full episode-long recap episode. Legend of the Galactic Heroes needed less than a minute to remind us, oh shit, this is why this is important. And this is why this is important.
This is why these guys
of all times.
Yeah, this is why these guys don't like Oberstein.
Right. This is not a weird, this is not a plot twist out of nowhere. This is not the writers desperately being like, do we have any hanging loose, plot threads? Let's bring them back now. No, this is an intentional, principle, effort to bring back an important plot point now when it is actually at its most relevant. And it's like, holy
Yeah.
fucking shit, this show.
It was real good.
And again, the episode's not over yet because we get one last goodie to look forward to.
We do get a bit here where Anton Ferner, who's basically like Oberstein's number 2 right now, like starts thinks to himself that maybe Oberstein's real game here is that he by being the shady one, everyone is like, man, fuck Oberstein instead of man, fuck Reinhard.
He's a well of hatred for people to pour into.
Right. Although he also thinks, maybe I'm overthinking this.
Yes. I am glad he is willing to entertain both ideas because, look, I don't want to get too into like baseless speculation here, even though that's all we do with this stupid podcast. But I would not deny that much of Oberstein's behavior is likely purposely cultivated.
Yeah.
Like, I do think Oberstein purposely cultivated, because here's the thing. If we are to assume that Oberstein is sincere when he says he wishes for nothing more than the success of Reinhard's dynasty,
I mean, all of his actions have been relatively consistent with that, and his personal beliefs as stated.
Yes. If we take that as at face value, then some of his personality, some of his actions do make sense from the standpoint of, oh, he's doing this so that people project the resentment onto that fucking shithead Oberstein instead of our Lord Emperor Reinhard. That said, I also think Oberstein still acts far too selfishly for this to be some kind of like, oh, long con, selfless act of his.
Yeah.
Like, I think many of his actions, the many ways he has thrown people under the bus, like, do some of those people deserve it? Of course, but like, nonetheless, like, stuff like that, stuff like letting Braunschweig nuke the planet, like...
Right.
Oberstein has far too much blood on his hands for me to buy into this, like, oh, he's graciously playing the villain.
Yeah,
no, he is a villain. Like, let's not get it twisted here. Is he maybe, like, are they going to eventually justify this in season 4? That, yes, he's a noble villain who truly believed in Reinhard? Sure, whatever. But also, does that excuse all the bullshit he's done? Not a fucking chance.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, now we finally get to the one last goodie of this episode. We find out that one Empire fleet has been sent from Odin to begin setting up the front lines at the Iserlohn corridor. And that fleet is led by none other than our good buddy, the Renaissance man himself, the Admiral Poet, Mecklinger.
Yay, Mecklinger! Finally doing something!
Yeah, we finally getting Mecklinger back, baby!
He's sitting on his like fancy chair on the bridge, writing in his like diary or something.
Yes. Oh, I miss Mecklinger. It's been too long. Like, what a tragically underused character in this show. Like,
so the whole season is fine.
It's just, I'm just so annoyed that like
noted Renaissance man Admiral Mecklinger.
It's just
comparable to Leonardo da Vinci and Cao Cao.
Yes, I just every other admiral has had their chance to shine, and like, or if not even shine, like every admiral has had the chance to like interact with other admirals to like bring out their personality. But like, poor fucking Mecklinger, because his job is to hold down the fort at Odin, is like not only not given a ton of screen time, but then he doesn't even get to interact with the other admirals that much. So like, as a result, we get so little of, like, we don't get to see much of him, like, interacting with the rest of the universe. And as a result, also, Reed Richards, what's his name? Kessler, yes. Same thing happens to Kessler, right? Like, when was the last time Kessler was relevant in this show?
No, not often.
Again, both of those guys kind of cursed with the, like, you guys have the important job of holding down the fort at home. So as a result, you don't
get the good stuff goes on over here.
Yeah, but now that has changed because Mecklinger is taken to the field, and
Now it's
I
his turn
know
to
that
get owned by Yang Wenli.
yes, that's exactly what I'm implying. Like, I know that in all likelihood I'm getting my hopes up too high. Like, Mecklinger's job is probably just to like set up the front lines, ensure that there's like an orderly supply line, you know, stuff Mecklinger's good at. But oh, there's a part of me that desperately hopes that like Yang like notices it's Mecklinger in command, is like, oh, we can take advantage of this. Like, we can like capture Mecklinger's supply line or something.
I don't know.
And like takes a shot at Mecklinger. I just want to see it happen because we've heard about Renaissance man, you know, Mecklinger, the poets, how he's like a great logistician, how he's good behind the scenes, how like his army's always like well fed and orderly. But you know, a guy like that more than anybody else, like I want to see how he holds up in an actual fight. You know,
Yeah,
like when his back's up against the wall and Yang's coming for his ass, I want to see what Mecklinger does.
indeed.
And with that, that concludes the third of the
The
trio of episodes.
narrator talks about how these fleet actions seem aggressive, but Reinhard has a complete grasp of the military situation, and
Right.
Yang Wenli has already accounted for that.
Yes. So basically,
the end.
you know, you're good. You know, the show continues to do an amazing job of setting up like the conflicts that are going to happen in the near future.
Indeed.
But with all of that said, I think that's kind of gonna do it for this podcast. Iro, do you have any kind of closing thoughts about this trio of episodes?
I enjoy that. I'm glad that I can enjoy these episodes that are straight, just like talking and setting up.
Pure politics.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, man. Like, I think it's really telling that we can have as much enthusiasm in our voices about these three episodes as the episode where Louis Macheco tore a stone pillar out of Iserlohn with his bare hands and tossed it at
this is obviously not a one-to-one comparison.
No, but I think it speaks to like how good this show. Sorry, go ahead, Iro.
I just think back to like when we were watching Gundam Iron Blood Orphans and how we would be endlessly annoyed that it would go 4 episodes of people sitting around talking, right? And it wasn't interesting,
right?
Whereas like this, spend 4 episodes sitting around talking. It's hella interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really important thing to bring up. Like, I think oftentimes when people hear the criticism of like, oh, not enough action, or oh, too much talking, or sometimes not enough talking, too much action, whatever. Like, I think what's actually being said there is, oh, we want more of the part of the show that's good. You know, like, not to bring up like recent relevant anime that we're watching right now, but we talk about shows like, for example, Demon Slayer. Like, when we say, oh, that show has too much talking, not enough action, I think what we're saying is not, oh, we don't like talking. It's that the talking in that show is bad. So we want more of where that show excels. But a show like Legend of the Galactic Heroes, that somehow this magnificent show manages to excel in both the talking and the action. Like, when both are equally compelling, when both are equally nail-biting, like,
I'm into it.
In that case, it's impossible to complain about whatever this show decides to do, because, like, it's all, like, generally so well done. Yeah, and I think that's why, like, we can gleefully cheer for these episodes as much as the more like action-packed ones.
I'm so happy we're 75 episodes in and still like excited about the show.
Yes. I am astounded we are 75 episodes in and we are still getting moments like fucking like what would even be called like Mirai Gaiden? Like is a part of the story we'll never get to see, because like even the show's like, even in 110 episodes we don't have enough time for
Patrushev putting down a mutiny.
Yes, it's like, it's such a shame, because like I think that is actually the difference between like the Empire and the FPA episodes. Is like the FPA episodes at their core are almost always centered about Yang Wenli and the people around him. Whereas I think the Empire episodes often benefit from the fact that Reinhard can sometimes afford to kind of be a background character to allow the rest of the Empire to flesh themselves out. Whereas like I would love an episode just about Mirai, Patrushev, and Fisher, because like frankly, Mirai is the only developed one of those three. And even then, Mirai is only developed in the sense that he had one conversation with Julian.
Yeah.
Like, I would love if there were more episodes of the FPA that were like, you know, like the Julian episodes, right? Where it's like what's Julian and Poplan up to this
just
week?
like the episode where they had to defend Iserlohn without Yang.
Right. Like I loved that episode.
That was a great one.
Like I would love for more episodes that are just like, yeah, like because here's the thing, right? Mirai, Patrushev, and Fisher specifically. I mean, again, I think it's very telling. We always address them as a trio of characters. Like I think there is a specific relationship there that those three have, but we don't really know it because we never get to see it. But like I would love to like in the ways that like Yang Wenli Julian is like the A dynamic of the FPA, and then like Shenkop, Poplan, Julian, Dusty, etc. is like the B like relationship dynamic of the FPA. I would love for a C relationship dynamic of like,
right, but it's not really there.
Of like what do Mirai like? Why do those three get along? What do they see in each other? But like we know so little about them that like at some point, like it's like motherfucker. Now you get why people want to write fan fiction. I want to like hey, if somebody out there has written like a good fanfic about the mutiny that Patrushev put down while Fisher was like in bed with the cold, please, like, if it's a good one, please send that to us. So like, because I want to know what happened during that like mutiny. Like Patrushev looks like a pretty husky dude. Like, was he putting down the mutiny like through calm words, or was he putting down the mutiny with like his bare fucking fists? Like, I need to know. I truly need to know. Like does Mirai actually have like, a secret skill?
Maybe like.
Right, like, is there an episode of Gaiden we should watch? Like, is Mirai secretly good at karate or something? Like, I need to know. I truly need to know. Like, please, somebody. And I think on that note, we have to call it a podcast now. So let's take care of the basic housekeeping. As always, you can listen to this podcast and read the rest of our posts at theglorioblog.com. You can follow us on Twitter at @TheGlorioBlog. You can listen to the podcast on Podbean, Spotify, Google Play, everywhere podcasts are stored and distributed. You can also listen to the podcast on YouTube. You're just going to have to Google our YouTube account because we don't have a URL, but maybe one day if y'all give us enough reviews and subscriptions, that could change.
I do want to do a quick shout out to our commenters. We don't always reply to the comments, but we do read them.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Iro. Like,
I always feel bad because we have lovely commenters who write fucking novels.
Yes, and we don't even mean that as an insult. We love them. We read every word of them. Like, y'all want to fucking write your college thesis on Legend of the Galactic Heroes and put that in the comments? Fucking go for it. We will read it.
We love it.
We love them. We love them. We read all of them. We wish we could respond to each and every single one of them, but like, frankly, we would be insulting ourselves with our like shitty 2-sentence replies to like your like master theses on Legend of the Galactic Heroes. But do understand, we always read them. You can watch Legend of the Galactic Heroes on High Dive and VRV.
Indeed.
Please, you can listen to our sister podcast, the GLORIO Chat, where we talk about more recent anime. Look forward to our next one of those, where we're going to be talking about our first impressions of the new season. So, if you watch more anime than just Legend of the Galactic Heroes, check that out. Listen to our other sister podcast, King of the Kaiju, I believe.
Yes, Glorio's King of the Kaiju.
Yes, where some of our GLORIO European correspondents talk about kaiju, if the name wasn't self-evident. And
rank their power levels.
Yes. I think a new episode of that is supposed to be coming out soon, but they're kind of operating on their own schedule, so who could say? You could also listen to our other sister podcast, fucking Neon Genesis Evangelion, where we talk about another legendary science fiction anime. And I think man, that housekeeping gets longer and longer every time.
It sure does.
But I think that does it. So
don't worry, in a few more weeks we can stop talking about Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We are closing on that, but still got a few. We got a few bangers left of that to get through.
Indeed.
But I think with all of that said, as always, thank you all for listening. Iro, thank you so much for accompanying me on this journey.
Thank you.
And until next time, we will see you all amongst the sea of stars.